What's an industry that exists only to service the very rich? Story 1. I've done some catering and personal chef work for some very wealthy people. They had their own personal stylist tailor who made their clothes. They had a tailored chef coat made for me. It wasn't just suits and dresses. They made their whole wardrobe. Answer. While not super common, bespoke clothing isn't exclusively for the super rich. There's lots of people who make custom dress clothes in price ranges certainly upper middle class commonly buy from. And people who are unusually tall or big frequently are stuck using them. Custom shoes are very common, especially in the area of hiking boots. You can buy a custom-made pair of hiking boots for less than twice what a comparable off-the-shelf boot costs, and they'll fit perfectly. A lot of people find that worth $300 or $400 extra. Story 2. Family office, an entire department that's catered to handling all finance, logistics, investment management, and many other things to one specific family or to a specific high net worth individual, especially for old money. Answer. I work in the family office division of an investment bank. I personally don't deal with anyone's finances. I'm in IT. But I know our clients aren't considered important unless they have at least $50 million in investments. The other day, I had to fix an internal form because the client's assets value was more than the form allowed. I feel somewhat insignificant whenever it comes to my attention how rich our clients are. Story 3. Luxury villa rentals. Think Airbnb for the wealthy. I worked in the space for 5 years. These mansions are owned by the ultra-wealthy and rented to the ultra-wealthy. 500 kWk for a Christmas villa rentals. Private islands for 60K a night. And full concierge service for the guests. Answer. My wife and I have a friend whose brother is a finance guy in NYC who has explained a dozen times to me what he does, and I still don't know. He built a house in Montana, and my friend said we should get a few other friends to go there for free, but just not during ski season because he rents it out for 85 kWk then. I told her there is no way in hell I'm asking someone to give up even 4 figures for my benefit. Story 4. I learned recently that there is a mattress that costs $600K, and there is a person whose is to come over and fluff the horsehair filling of the mattress for the lifespan of the mattress. So I guess mattress fluffer. Answer. That there is a mattress that costs $600K, and there is a person whose is to come over and fluff the horsehair filling of the mattress for the lifespan of the mattress. So I guess mattress fluffer. I feel like this is just a service selling a very high-end adult worker in a way that you can both 1. Expense, and 2. Keep an inquisitive wife from questioning the money. Gonna have the maid strip the mattress today, honey. Mattress fluffer is coming over while you are at tennis. Story 5. Those people who are paid to travel with luggage ahead of a person family and unpack everything set up the accommodation before the guests arrive. Story 6. I would say that pretty much every single industry branch you know has its own, for rich-only alternate dimension. A friend of mine works for a company that repairs coffee machines. Not any machine. One brand. Not a brand you can normally buy. A brand of coffee machines that are made only for certain private airplanes. Company is like 50 people. The whole company exists to repair and maintain a coffee machine of a single brand in the airplanes of the ultra-rich. He travels a lot. Answer. For a while during college, I worked for a landscaping company that I would describe as niche, ultra-high-end residential. We serviced only wealthy clients at their homes. Entire company was 7 dudes, 2 3-man crews, and the boss. We serviced maybe 30 clients, all worth north of 10 million, many in the hundreds of millions, a few billionaires, massive mansions, vacation chalets, etc. We did not mow grass, ever. As a landscaping company, all we ever did was maintain exotic plants, mega huge gardens, and seasonal decorations planters. We did multi-million-dollar installs on new properties. Like a guy buys a $12 million estate and then immediately pays another $2 million to overhaul the gardens and property. We sourced bespoke, super expensive, planter pots, outdoor furniture, statues, and so on. Like here's a set of 4,000 or 5,000 flower pots imported from Italy. It was kind of weird. Story 7. Highly recommend an older but fantastic book called Richistan by Robert Frank. It's fantastic and all about this topic. It is estimated that the GDP in USA to serve this ecosystem is larger than most countries in the world. Yachts, planes, high-end watches, butlers, the list goes on. Story 8. Healthcare has entire different divisions for different classes. I work for a large hospital network, and one of the bigger campuses has private offices, waiting areas, bathrooms, and even hotel rooms for certain clientele. They're pretty cleverly hidden too. We've even been told that if we see bodyguards or Secret Service, that we mind our own business. Story 9. I know someone who designs the IT and security systems for mega yachts. Not those piddly 100-foot yachts, the 300 million yachts. I found out that one of the contracts he won was like a 10 million contract. I'm in IT, so I had to ask how that much IT can go into yacht. He said it's not the quantity, but the quality. For example, the electronic door strike for card access isn't the off-the-shelf model. It's custom-made with 316 stainless steel that gets milled by hand and fitted perfectly to a door that's made out of mahogany. Story 10. When I drove through the south of France near Cannes, there were ads on the radio, all in British English, that were for yacht cleaning and storage services. Very posh. Story 11. This is a sort of related story. When I worked at Home Depot, 2 men came in looking for a jigsaw. The one guy looked like he probably had money, but had worked his way up the blue-collar ladder to get there. The other guy really had money. Rolex watch, expensive suit, shoes that cost more than I made in a month, etc. It seemed to me like they had been friends for a long time, or maybe they were brothers. And Guy 1 was taking Guy 2 out shopping for a tool as a new, "Let's me show you how regular people do things" type of experience. They came and asked me about the different jigsaws. Guy 1 didn't really need my help, but all this was new to Guy 2. So he let it play out and was kind of coaching Guy 2. It was interesting to watch, almost like a father teaching a young kid how to shop and get help from the employee. Anyway, at the end of all this, Guy 2 picked the jigsaw he wants and says, "What's super crazy is about 10 minutes later they come back and I ask them if there is anything else they need, and the rich guy reaches into his pocket and pull out a money clip, peels off a 20, and starts to hand it to me saying, 'Thank you for all your help. I really appreciate it.' His buddy is like, 'Dude, no. He probably can't take a tip. That's not how this works,' and looks at me with a bit of awkward panic on his face. I said, 'No, I'm not allowed to take tips, but if you want, you can put that 20 in a donation jar somewhere,' and I was happy to help. It was one of the weirdest interactions I ever had at Home Depot. But his sister-in-law was freaking out because their allowance had been cut so much that her husband might have to get a job. To be fair, that fear seems somewhat valid to me, as her husband had never had a job before, and his only real skill seemed to be drinking cognac after skiing. Story 12. Luxury watches. And I'm not talking about Rolex. That's for upper-middle-class folks who are breaking into the watch game. Brands like Patek Philippe, F.P. Journe, A. Lang Sony, Vacheron Constantin, Audemars Piguet, etc. Most people have likely never heard of them, but most of their entry-level watches can cost more than an average person's yearly mortgage. Story 13. I once dated a woman who worked for a high-end florist, and the majority of her job was driving all over the city suburbs to visit very wealthy people's homes and tend their fancy orchids. She dealt with other flowers too, but she was known as an orchid specialist, and all these rich people had her on retainer for that reason. Fun trivia. I remember she said it was becoming trendy among her clients to install a urinal in the master bathroom. Story 14. There's a rich guy nearby who has a family compound. This is in a moderate-sized West Coast city with a view of the bay. Once you get in the gate, there's a family office building which operates all the groundskeepers, maintenance, dog walkers, pest control, scheduling the private jet and helicopter service to Boeing Field, accountants, and all the other hired help. Story 15. I don't know if this qualifies as very rich, as many people I know who use this are middle and even working class, but horse masseuse is a thing. I pay a woman to give my horse a massage once a month, 65. He's a working competition horse, and he rides much better after his massages. But also she can identify areas he is extra sore or needs more stretching, or that there may be an underlying soft tissue injury I was unaware of. Story 16. I met a guy who owns a bunch of race cars. He moves them around the U.S. to different tracks, and he runs races for the super rich who jet in, race, have a party, then leave. He takes care of everything with the cars. He makes serious dough doing this, but nothing close to what his customers have. Story 17. My dad used to work on cranes, and one time he crew, and his crane were shipped out to an island for a couple of days to move an old-growth tree, a couple 100 feet, to improve the oceanfront view of a private residence. Not remove the tree, literally move and replant it, so probably that. Story 18. In polo, teams have from 10 to 20 horses, and they all have to be maintained and all. There's a whole industry dedicated to help polo players' teams to keep their horses in good shape. Story 19. There are services that fill bookshelves with books in personal libraries' offices. You can curate the books by color, subject matter. Probably not a rich person type thing, but still a pretty niche service that a normal person would never even know exists. Answer. Buying books by the foot for home and office decor is actually pretty common and can range drastically in price. If you want 10 linear feet of mass-market paperbacks and don't mind them gently used, compared to that same 10 feet of all leather-bound antiquarian collectibles, is like looking at different worlds in cost and sourcing. When I was a younger adult, I wanted to get into that side of bookselling, but never managed to get on with a place that offered that as a service. As it stands, I am now just a layperson book enthusiast. Smala. Story 20. Some of these are not the slam dunk they're being portrayed could be. I know average wealthy people with a passion for yachting and salaried executives who use a fractional private jet for their demanding business travel schedule. However, the one and only time I have ever met a wheatgrass consultant was at a party throws and almost exclusively attended by the ultra-wealthy. So that's my answer. I was the odd one out. Like how an interior illumination fixture maintenance technician would just be a guy who changes light bulbs. Although I suppose that if you employed someone full-time for that one particular job, you must have an awful lot of lamps around your house and a lot of money to burn to hire a person just for that. Is a wheatgrass consultant just a glorified title for a lawn maintenance person, though? 'Cause golf courses sure do spend a lot of time and money on their grass, and I can totally imagine a rich person wanting a golf green for a lawn. Or am I still just miles off because I'm so poor? Story 21. Meanwhile, you get a catered lunch while you wait, but not with the poors. You get to wait in your very own waiting room. I dislike our healthcare system, and I am a nurse. Answer. Concierge medicine. They get picked up in a chauffeured car, provided by the health system, and taken to the hospital. This doesn't pass the sniff test. If it's concierge medicine, the doctor would come to you. Why would I want to wait in a waiting room when I can be comfortable in my own home? For labs, a phlebotomist would do the draw in my own home and hand carry it back to the lab. Time is currency for the wealthy. Why are they spending that time in a car? Story 22. That all depends on your definition of very rich, but some examples. Concierge medicine, a whole medical system outside of what insurance might provide. This can be anything. Checkups with tens of thousands of dollars in tests, bespoke infusions, cosmetic surgery, house call urgent care. Private bank, private office. Major banks have departments just for servicing clients with 8 figures or more under management, and those clients often have their own financial people in their employ as well. Luxury transportation and travel. Private jet sales and servicing, same for yachts. Bespoke travel agencies like Kensington, Abercrombie Kent, or Butterfield Robinson. Story 23. Sometimes marketed to the ultra-rich as, e.g., continuity of civilization, life continuity insurance, or resilient real estate, things the press calls survival bunkers, doomsday shelters, or apocalyptic retreats for times of civil unrest, breakdown, disease outbreaks, climate disasters, war, etc. Story 24. My therapist's wife is an interior designer for yachts. Every single thing she deals with, upholstery, furniture, fixtures, etc., comes from companies that specialize in high-end materials and furnishings specifically for luxury yachts. It's like looking through a window into another world, seeing her office. Story 25. I trap moles for a living in an extremely affluent part of the U.S. It's an absolutely unnecessary service. Moles are actually good for your lawn and are a sign of a healthy lawn. They're just unsightly, potentially dangerous to livestock stepping into the tunnels. But this is $1,000 a job that would never exist again if society restarted. The clientele were amongst the richest people on earth, politicians, athletes, tippy-top level corporate executives of the PNW, Amazon, Costco, Microsoft, Starbucks, T-Mobile, etc. The estates I've seen make the rent-a-mansions from MTV Cribs look like trailer park boys. Story 26. Trusts. I was curious about UK law school curricula and noted that a dedicated trust class is part of the base curricula in the UK, and that sort of told me all I needed to know about old money. Every lawyer is taught to defend it. And it's not because they think we're all going to be working for rich people, but rather it covers a lot of very important legal concepts that apply to families of all wealth levels, as well as concepts that are then applicable when learning about corporate law. It's basically a great intro class. Story 27. I don't know if this is actually for the rich or seems like it should be, but there's a company in my town that fills your car up with gas at your house. You pay, I believe, a monthly subscription, and then you get your gas pumped right into your car in your driveway. Story 28. There's several companies that do bespoke 10,000 cell phones, usually made of exotic metals and gemstones, and usually with a private concierge service on speed dial. Need to order a 1961 Bollinger Legrand Anne Brute at 4 in the morning to go with your hookers and blow? They got you. Need to figure out what markets are open in the middle of the night when you are one step away from insider trading and have to set up a shady tax shelter in a non-extradition country. Yup, probably have some Swiss banker on speed dial. Story 29. My partner is a master marine tech, yachts. It is mind-blowing how much these people can spend without even thinking twice about it. Most owners enjoy their yacht once a year for about a week and still pay for a full-time crew 365 24/7. Story 30. I know a young lady who worked for a company that contracted with owners of private jet aircraft to rent them out to other users. It is like an Airbnb concept for private jet aircraft. Story 31. Certain areas of law, like high-end estate trust lawyers that work almost exclusively with high-net-worth individuals. Story 32. You know that antique shop in Andor? Shops like that one. It isn't like they are going to the local curio shop to get their semi-stolen, priceless artifacts dating to ancient China. You know that the antiques dealers in those shops have to coordinate with an equally overpriced interior decorator to find the exact mixture of ostentatious and criminal, so all the other rich people know their place in the pecking order. Story 33. Butler, private jets and yachts companies, bodyguards, armor vehicles, adult worker services, Lolita Epstein Express. Just a few ideas. Story 34. Private jet chartering is a prime example. It's basically a whole industry built around making sure the super wealthy can skip airports and fly whenever they want, with zero inconvenience. It's wild how much infrastructure and manpower goes into serving just a tiny fraction of people. Story 35. Super yachts, design, crew, maintenance, private aviation, jets, private terminals, luxury concierge services, lifestyle management, VIP access, art collectibles management, auctions, storage, advisory, luxury survival bunkers, high-end shelters, extreme experiences, space tourism, private islands, deep-sea trips. Story 36. Philanthropy. It exists primarily for tax evasion and reputation laundering. Much cheaper to spend $100K giving a gift to a charity than it is to spend millions on imagined consultants, etc. Story 37. Corporations. They exist to service the rich. Employees, customers, MBA, etc. are there to churn out cash for the rich. Think about that next time you are working late. Story 38. Everything exists in a form that benefits billionaires the most. Everything in every industry is structured to funnel as much money to the top as possible. I would argue that even industries that do not seemingly only benefit the rich, they are at least built to mainly benefit them and give as little benefit as possible to other people. Story 39. My brother does yacht inspections to make sure vessels are ready for Coast Guard inspections. Think of getting your car inspected yearly, but in a boat, fines are exorbitant. He makes a pretty penny thanks to his clientele and his thoroughness. Story 40. I don't recall if you had to have a minimum amount in your account to be able to qualify, but I'd see all these wealthy lawyers and business owners in there all the time. This was years ago when I lived in Houston and worked as a bank teller for Chase. Story 41. As a full industry and not just individualized businesses with broader industries, yacht manufacturers, there are financial advisors managers that cater to all levels of income. There are repair companies that cater to all levels of income. There are tailor seamstresses that cater to all levels of income. But the yacht industry doesn't even remotely cater to you unless you are in the 500K per annum income range, putting their base clientele in the top 2%. There are lots of boats and boat manufacturers that cater to lower income brackets, but a yacht is a distinct thing to a boat, even a boat designed for multi-day trips with cabins and a full galley. And then there is the mega yacht sub-industry, which if you're not making multiple millions per annum, You generally can't even get in the front door of the broker's office. Story 42. Everything can be tailored for the rich, from concierge to tickets for sold-out show, to jet setting to anywhere in the world, even personal assistant, personal bodyguard. When your net worth is high, everything will be open for you. Story 43. I live near Teterboro, so the entire private jet industry, and they come roaring in a half-dot low and 4K TS slow, but eager to catch up at 3 a.m. Yay! Story 44. Everything to maximize privacy. Private banking, Switzerland, Cayman Islands, etc. Private islands, private security, private dining, chef rooms in Michelin-star restaurants, private yachts, out at sea in international waters is the ultimate privacy. Story 45. All of them. Most industries exist to create wealth for them. The most obvious would be the health insurance industry. Story 46. Private aircraft fleet management crewing. Ultra-rich people having a collection of private aircrafts. Story 47. Law legal. The law in its majestic equality prohibit both the rich and poor from sleeping under bridges, sleeping in the streets, and stealing loaves of bread. Anatole, France. Story 48. As someone who's deeply invested in technology's societal impact, I find this discussion fascinating. From a software development perspective, I've observed several tech industries that predominantly cater to ultra-high net worth individuals. 1. Bespoke enterprise software development, custom solutions costing millions that smaller companies could never afford. 2. Ultra-secure private cloud infrastructure, hyper-customized systems for billionaires and multinational corporations. 3. Advanced AI consulting, tailored machine learning solutions that start at price points prohibitive to most organizations. What's interesting is how these industries often represent the bleeding edge of technological innovation. While they seem exclusionary, they frequently drive technological advances that eventually democratize and benefit broader society. The key is recognizing that today's rich-only technology is often tomorrow's mainstream solution. It's less about exclusivity and more about the natural progression of technological development. Story 49. Sadly, in the UK law, UK libel laws and SLAP are a wealthy against being held to account by society. Story 50. The education system only serves rich people. It's set up so that you either learn to be rich if your parents have the money for it, or you learn to work for the rich and make them even richer. Story 51. Fully grown tree landscaping. Each tree can cost more than $100,000. No one is buying that except the exceptionally rich. Story 52. The police service. It was made to protect the rich's assets, slaves, the slave patrol, and it still services them to this day. Story 53. The luxury yacht shipping industry. There's a whole global system for getting the mega yachts of the ultra-rich from regatta to regatta, following the annual social calendar. Story 54. I work in the entertainment industry and have also worked and own companies in tech. They are people you can hire who are essentially sexetaries. They are completely legitimate personal assistants, but they're also escorts. They are hired by big executives in a number of companies, so they can have illicit affairs in broad daylight on the company time and dime. They are paid more than people who offer a few services, but as they are often extremely highly qualified, that can be all shifted onto the company books if you're careful enough. Hiring one is a kind of if-you-know situation. However, next time you see someone who has a person assistant who is ridiculously hot, you might be looking at one. They've also likely got a first-grade education, speak multiple languages, etc., etc. The upside for them, apart from the money, is a direct path into the Apple levels of companies that are very hard to get into, and the huge paychecks that go along with it. It's so common in some industries that people deliberately hire assistants of a gender they're not attracted to in order to make it clear they're not screwing them. Story 55. All publicly traded companies. It's why profits are more important than anything else. Dumping waste in water? That's okay. Profit. Running employees ragged and having them pee in vans? That's okay. Profit. Polluting half the world and making the earth uninhabitable? That's okay. Profit. As long as the wealthy keep living off their buy, borrow, die scheme, profits, and thus greater borrowing power, is always going to serve the interests of the capitalist class. Story 56. Stock market. Derivatives hit 1 quadrillion a few years ago, and now it's 600 trillion. Well, where did that 400 trillion go? Story 57. There is an entire industry designed to hide or shelter the assets of the very rich. Read Kleptopia, How Dirty Money is Conquering the World by Tom Burgess. It is eye-opening. We should demand more transparency. Story 58. Political parties. Is that a hot take? In the U.S., political parties are private organizations. They are beholden to no one but their own interests. Follow the money. Story 59. The reality TV business model gives them a chance to make money, present the best public face while dangling the prospect of, see, us rich people want you to be rich too, especially Cuban the Kevin jerk. Story 60. The financial services industry, you know, the one all Western countries have reorganized their economies to completely revolve around since the 1980s. Story 61. Banking. We all use it, but really it's there as part of the debt-based economy to continue letting the rich get richer. Story 62. Property management services that take of multiple properties as landlords on behalf of the actual owners. Story 63. Patek Philippe comes to mind. $1,000,000 watches that are basically just club membership badges to let other rich people know you're rich without drawing attention from the rabble. Story 64. Technically all of them, at least all those generally owned by very rich owners. It's all wealth extraction, all of it. Story 65. Generative AI adds no value to human life or creativity, just makes the rich people with big companies richer faster. Story 66. All off them. That is the point of capitalism. Companies exist to generate revenue for shareholders. Story 67. Trusts in estate law. Sure, it helps other classes, but it's very necessary if your net worth is over 14 mil. Story 68. Lolita Express, now out of business. I'm sure there are new services available. Edit. Lolita Express was Epstein's jet that flew people to his pedo island. Trump now owns the plane. Story 69. 99 of client-side professional services. Audit, turnaround and restructuring, performance and improvement consulting, sell-side MA advisory, strategy consulting, etc. Story 70. If you have a credit card with them, they will treat you a tiny bit better, but they don't have to bend over backwards to keep you. Once you put the charge on the card, you owe the money whether you keep your other accounts with that bank or not. Get a mortgage with them, and they start treating you like a valued customer. When a mortgage specialist sees a young family buying a home, they don't see people who will have one mortgage with them. They see repeat business. There's finally enough money involved for them to feel incentivized to care. Let them manage a 7-figure portfolio, and the branch manager greets you by name with honorifics. Story 71. Lobbyists. If you want a politician to do something, maybe you can get them to do it if an overwhelming number of people also want him to do it, and you all pool your money to hire a lobbyist. And even then, it's a dice roll. Or you can be so wealthy you have your own team of lobbyists who make sure the majority of politicians do exactly what you want every time. Story 72. Private jet charter companies. Basically flying Ubers, but only if your wallet can bench press a small country. Story 73. My guess would be child intimacy trafficking. If only there was a list of the rich people who participated in it that could be released. Story 74. There is a side to home furnishings and decor that exists only for the super rich. I'm working on a house right now with a $60,000 sofa. It's ridiculous. Story 75. Law is only accessible to the rich because lawyers are so expensive. Public defenders are not good enough. I know someone who is about to lose custody of their child because they cannot afford the legal battle. I also knew a dude who needed $5,000 for an immigration lawyer. He is back in China now. Story 76. Psych wards. I'm an EMT who stayed in one. Worst mistake of my life. For-profit facilities also probably pull in a lot from insurance. Story 77. Creating, installing, cataloging, stocking, and curating private residence wine cellars. It's a thing. Story 78. Working class society. It may not be commonly viewed as an industry in its own right, but our very lives, running from jobs to shops to home mortgages, etc., that is the industry from which most of the profits are siphoned off by the 0.01 so that can live a life of inconceivable luxury. Story 79. When I sold vegetables at a farmer's market, I had about 5 personal chefs that would stop by each Saturday to buy as much as they could for their clients. I was always jealous about the idea of having someone to go get your groceries and prepare your meals for you. Story 80. Private security. I've worked for all sorts of different levels of rich, from billionaires to movie stars. Story 81. The professional butler industry. Filthy rich Americans have them, trained in butler schools in the UK. Story 82. Golf. A whole industry built on selling land, clubs and carts so rich people can spend 5 hours hitting a ball worse than they thought they would. Story 83. Super yachts. I've consulted on a current 800-meter build. It's just daft. Coming from an automotive background where I thought 5-meter cars was wild, this is just a different planet. Story 84. Armored car conversions. Get a car, have them armor it for you. Cool thing many people would love to have, but too expensive for most. Story 85. Trainers and organic data sacks, just like the Matrix JS. All this while at the same time, AI is quietly being integrated into all our devices. We are being drip-fed algorithm soup, and the Western world is quietly, or not quietly, heating up rhetoric in preparation for 1984-style surveillance state. Not to mention that with every iterative, progressive step that LLMs and AI make, these companies, without fail, turn around and dumb down the models that the general public has access to. Looking at you, ChatGPT 5.0. IDKKKKK, something smells a little fishy. The tech bros are at the White House every day now. This administration has gutted or is gutting science, clean energy, freedom of speech, due process, and constitutional rights, and healthcare. Do we really think that the billionaire tech bros who are fully teamed up with this administration are building the AI that is going to give us more high-paying jobs, a cleaner planet, better healthcare, more decomprodization of knowledge and truth? But yeah, it's mostly that the technology is improving at light speed, but the tech that we have access to is getting iteratively worse. That's what makes me think they are building this shootout for the ultra-wealthy. Story 86. Legal representation. Seriously. As an attorney, I can tell you that 95% of people probably won't be able to afford an attorney to defend them. You either need insurance or someone who does high-volume work at low rates. Story 87. The whole private jet industry, like the Amalfi Jets TikTok videos. The daughters of very wealthy people renting huge jets basically for fun and to upstage their friends. Story 88. Asset-based luxuries, super yachts, and private aviation. This includes the manufacturing, sales, charter, and maintenance of super yachts, typically over 80 feet, and private jets. The price of entry and operation is so high that only the ultra-wealthy can participate. High-end real estate. While not exclusively for the rich, the ultra-luxury segment is its own industry, catering to ultra-high net worth individuals. This includes private islands, sprawling estates, and penthouses valued in the tens of millions or more. The psychology behind these purchases is often about wealth preservation and securing tangible assets. Haute couture and bespoke goods. This industry creates one-of-a-kind clothing and accessories that are handcrafted specifically for a client. Specialized services and management. Family offices and private wealth management. These private firms manage the financial and investment affairs for a single family or a small group of ultra-wealthy individuals. Lifestyle concierge services. High-end concierge companies specialize in fulfilling any request for their wealthy clients, from securing VIP access to exclusive events to arranging last-minute, bespoke travel and dining experiences. Personal and executive security. This is a crucial, high-discretion industry for high-net-worth individuals and families who face elevated risks due to their public profile. Protection agents often have backgrounds in military or law enforcement. Reputation and privacy management. Beyond security, these firms help the very rich protect their public image and digital privacy. Philanthropic advisory. While many people donate to charity, firms that advise on large-scale, strategic philanthropy and manage private foundations are designed for the ultra-wealthy. Exclusive experiences. Luxury travel and expeditions. This industry customizes and executes exclusive travel experiences that are inaccessible to the general public. Examples include private jet journeys to exotic locations, customized African safaris, and private island getaways. Elite events and entertainment. Planning and hosting exclusive galas, parties, and corporate launches for the very wealthy is an industry in itself. This often includes securing access to celebrities and other high-profile individuals. Custom education. For the children of the ultra-rich, this can involve private tutors, exclusive boarding schools, and personalized educational consultants. Story 89. Personal chef. Nobody needs a personal chef, so they pay someone a princely sum year-round to cook and manage their nutritional intake. Nobody reply and say, Gusto's monthly food prep or anything like that because it's not the same. LOL. Story 90. The AI industry, making the broad masses of people fall under mass surveillance, making the working class losing their only leverage against their rich overlords, i.e. their capacity for work, mass-produced slop, and automated plagiarism against all art. Story 91. Top-notch golf clubs. I wish the best golf spots were accessible for all people. It really is a beautiful game on beautiful properties. Story 92. Gestures, broadly. Pretty much everything only exists to serve the rich. I know my life's dream wasn't working hard to barely survive while watching others do nothing, or maybe be an influencer and earn more. The way we live life is fudge absurd. Story 93. Child intimacy trafficking rings. Donald Trump and Epstein used to use Trump's Miss Teen Universe pageants for this very purpose. Story 94. Did someone already say pedo resort islands frequented by several of our presidents? Because we have to get that out of the way. Story 95. Uber rich or just rich? Because I just learned there are travel babysitters and they don't come cheap on a normal salary.